if you're listening to this right now, I can almost guarantee you have this digital pile of guilt sitting somewhere on your computer.
Oh, yeah. We all do.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's that folder buried on your desktop. Maybe you named it something like to read or important research.
Or just a bunch of random dates.
Exactly. And it is just completely full of PDFs that you absolutely swore you were going to read over the weekend.
And the weekend comes and goes.
Right. Or maybe it's your web browser. You probably have, what, 3 dozen tabs open right now?
At least. Usually across multiple windows, too.
Yes. And each one of those tabs is a genuinely fascinating article or a deep research paper, a white paper, maybe a video essay that you deeply, truly want to consume. Because you are someone who loves to learn.
You want to be informed.
Right. You're constantly prepping for the next big meeting or trying to catch up on the rapid, honestly, seemingly hourly changes in your field.
It never stops.
It doesn't. Or maybe you're just an insanely curious person who wants to understand how the world works. But right now, you are facing the ultimate modern struggle.
The bottleneck.
Yeah. You want to gain thorough knowledge quickly, but you're feeling absolutely crushed by information overload. It feels less like drinking from a fire hose and more like drowning in a library.
I mean, it really is a fascinating paradox of our era, isn't it? We have this unprecedented access to the greatest, most expansive libraries of human knowledge in the history of the species.
Just sitting right there.
Sitting right in our pockets. Yet, empirically speaking, we often feel less informed and significantly more overwhelmed than we did maybe 20 years ago.
Why is that, though?
Because we spend half our cognitive energy just managing the noise. We are constantly triaging. We're trying to figure out what's actually worth our attention, what's credible, what's relevant.
It's exhausting.
It is. The cognitive load of simply sorting through the information, organizing it, bookmarking it, it leaves us with very little actual energy to understand it, let alone synthesize it and apply it to our lives or our work.
And that is the exact pain point we're tackling today. I've got a stack of incredibly interesting source materials right here in front of me.
Really good stuff today.
Yeah, these are cutting-edge lab manuals, internal guides, and methodology papers detailing how to use 3 very distinct, incredibly powerful AI tools.
We're looking at Custom Gems, Notebook LM, and Gemini Deep Research.
Right. But I want to be really clear right up front about our mission for this deep dive. We are not just talking about using AI today.
It's a huge distinction.
Massive. We are not just going to talk about typing a generic question into a chat box and hoping the algorithm hands you something useful. We are talking about managing AI.
Moving from passive to active.
Exactly. Moving from being a passive searcher, someone who just takes whatever the machine spits out, to becoming an active director of information.
Setting the parameters.
Yes. We're going to build your ultimate workflow to synthesize knowledge, challenge your own assumptions, and generate insights you can actually share with your team. And most importantly, all while buying back your time.
I think that framing is absolutely essential for you, the listener. If we look at these 3 tools, Custom Gems, Notebook LM, and Deep Research.
Just as separate things.
Right, not as isolated software features or neat little party tricks, but as a cohesive ecosystem for critical thinking. When you do that, everything changes.
It's a paradigm shift.
It really is. They represent a fundamental shift in how we interact with data as knowledge workers. We are moving away from treating AI as a glorified, faster search engine, and we're starting to treat it as a cognitive partner.
A partner that actually helps you.
Exactly. We're talking about building a system that doesn't just hand you an answer and send you on your way. It actively helps you refine your questions. It organizes your chaotic inputs into structure and rigorously, objectively tests your ideas before you bring them into the real world.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want to start with the first phase of this workflow, which we're drawing from a lab guide titled Build with AI, Expert Advice Lab.
This is a great place to start.
The whole concept here is about engineering your own board of directors.
Oh.
And I am obsessed with this idea. The documentation walks through creating custom gems using a Google account within the Gemini ecosystem.
And this is where most people get it wrong.
Completely wrong. Because normally, when I or anyone else gets access to a custom chatbot feature, the instinct is to just immediately jump in.
Open a blank chat.
Right. Open a blank chat and start throwing commands at it. We say, write me a marketing email or give me some layout ideas for this slide deck.
Just immediate demands.
Yeah. But looking at the methodology in this lab manual, it stops you right there. It says, absolutely do not do that.
Well, the first step isn't building anything.
No. The very first move isn't building the tool at all. It's called persona exploration. And honestly, at first glance, I read it and thought, this feels like a completely unnecessary extra step.
I completely understand why it feels that way. It feels like busy work. Like, why am I doing this?
Exactly.
But the distinction between jumping right in and actually doing this exploration phase is profound in terms of the output quality you're going to get.
So how does it actually work?
Well, the methodology specifically instructs you to open a standard, non-customized chat first, and you use a very precise prompt.
Okay.
You ask the AI, what are the key characteristics of? And then you insert whatever expert role is relevant to your specific problem.
And the manual gives a specific example for this, right?
Yeah, the example it provides is a highly competent interior designer. So before you ever attempt to build your customized tool, your custom gem, you are asking the base AI model to define the parameters, the skills, and the mindset of the expertise you ultimately want it to emulate.
Right. And then you're supposed to sit there, read that response, let the AI tell you what makes a truly great interior designer, and then physically copy those insights to use later.
You extract that data.
But I have to ask, on behalf of everyone listening right now who is strapped for time, why?
The big question.
Why are we doing this two-step dance? Why can't I just go into the custom builder and say, you are an interior designer, now help me fix my living room? Doesn't the AI already know what an interior designer is?
It does, but we have to talk about how these large language models actually function under the hood to understand why that shortcut fails.
Okay, break that down for us.
When you just give an AI a simple command like act like an interior designer, you're giving it a very shallow two-dimensional surface area to work with.
Just a label?
Exactly, and the model operates on probability. With a prompt that thin, it will likely pull the most generic, highly probable, stereotypical responses associated with that broad label.
So it's not really an expert.
No, it acts like a caricature of a designer. It might just start vaguely suggesting color palettes or telling you to buy throw pillows or talking about making the space pop. It's entirely superficial.
So it's basically giving me the HGTV reality show version of a designer, not an actual working professional.
That is exactly what it's doing. But when you ask it to define the characteristics first, you are engaging a process known as priming its chain of thought.
Priming the chain of thought.
Right. You are forcing the model to access a much deeper, more nuanced network of semantic associations before it ever tries to solve your problem.
Because you put those words in its active memory.
Yes. By having the AI explicitly list the characteristics of a highly competent professional, and it will likely generate things like spatial awareness, deep understanding of architectural flow, knowledge of sustainable materials, client psychology, acoustics, rigid budgeting constraints. When it lists those, you are pulling all of those complex concepts to the forefront of the model's working memory.
You're setting the boundaries.
You are establishing the psychological and professional boundaries of the persona.
Yeah.
You are moving it from a generic flat label to a multidimensional, rigorously defined profile.
You know, it's like the difference between hiring someone whose resume is just a post-it note that says, I do design, versus hiring someone who just handed you a 5-page, deeply researched manifesto on their design philosophy, their methodology, their background in structural engineering.
And their specific expertise in ergonomic spatial planning.
Exactly. You're forcing the AI to build the resume before you hire it for the job. You're setting the ground rules for the relationship before any actual work begins.
That is a perfect analogy. You aren't just giving the AI a job title. You are giving it a comprehensive worldview.
And that worldview dictates everything that follows.
It fundamentally dictates how it will process every single question you ask it from that point forward. It anchors the AI's responses in a specific, highly professional reality.
Which kills the fluff.
It drastically reduces the generic fluff and massively improves the quality, depth, and relevance of the advice you are going to get.
Okay, so I've interrogated the AI. I have this fantastic, robust, psychological and professional profile of an expert. What do I actually do with that text? Do I just paste it into a new chat window every time I need help?
No, this is where you actually build the custom gem. You take that rich profile and you hard code it into the system.
So we're creating a permanent tool.
Exactly. The user interface flow is very straightforward. You expand the side menu in the app, navigate to gems, open the gem manager, and select new gem.
Simple enough.
You give it a clear name, let's stick with interior designer, and a brief description. But the real engine of this tool is the instruction box. This is where you paste the master prompt.
And the source material provides a very specific template for this master prompt, doesn't it? It's not just pasting the characteristics and hitting save.
Correct. The methodology provides a highly engineered template.
How does it read?
It reads like this. You are insert, and then insert the expert role. Your key characteristics include, and here is where you paste that entire rich profile you generated in step 1,
The manifest.
the manifesto. Then you say, I am a figure. Insert your role, for example, a homeowner with no design experience. Use your expertise to challenge my thinking and ensure my ideas are sound. Your advice should be clear, candid, and informative. Stay in character throughout the conversation.
I won't pause right there, because reading through these lab notes, that one sentence really jumped out at me.
Which one?
The instruction to challenge my thinking.
What's fascinating here is how counter to human nature that instruction actually is, especially when we're interacting with technology.
Yeah, we expect it to serve us.
When people use AI, the default setting, both from the user's expectation and honestly the model's base training, is what we might call a yes-man dynamic.
Oh, absolutely.
The AI is fundamentally designed to be helpful, to be polite, and to give you what it thinks you want to hear.
It wants a 5-star rating.
Right. If you open a standard chat and say, I have a tiny windowless room, and I think painting the walls and ceiling dark navy blue is a brilliant idea, a standard AI will likely validate you.
They'll say, go for it.
It will say, dark navy is a bold, sophisticated, and moody choice. Here are some complementary gold accents to go with it.
Which honestly feels fantastic in the moment.
Yeah.
You feel like a genius, but it doesn't actually help you if your idea is fundamentally flawed and is going to ruin your house.
It's toxic positivity from a machine.
Well, wait, I have to play devil's advocate for a second here. Isn't there a risk if I explicitly program an AI to be critical, if I tell it to challenge my thinking, doesn't it just become an argumentative roadblock?
It could, if poorly prompted.
Right, because, I mean, I don't want a tool that just shoots down every single brainstorm I have. How do I ensure it gives constructive feedback rather than just being a digital contrarian?
That is exactly why the persona exploration step we discussed earlier is so critical. Because you didn't just tell it to be critical.
I told it to be an expert.
You told it to be a highly competent interior designer who is critical. Therefore, its pushback is anchored in the professional standards you defined. It won't argue just to argue.
It has rules.
Yes. But it will introduce necessary, productive friction into your creative or analytical process.
Productive friction, I like that.
It has permission to say, as a highly competent interior designer, I must strongly advise against this. Dark navy in a room with zero natural light will visually absorb all the lumens, drastically shrink the perceived footprint of the room, and create an oppressive, claustrophobic environment.
A much better response.
And then it might pivot and say, have you considered a high LRV, lighter hue, or perhaps investing heavily in layered artificial lighting to mitigate this architectural flaw before committing to that paint?
It's applying logic.
It forces the AI to apply objective, professional standards against the raw ideas you bring to it.
I really love that concept of productive friction. Because as a learner, as someone who is genuinely trying to make good decisions or master a new skill, I don't need a cheerleader.
You don't learn from total agreement.
No. I have enough people in my life who will politely nod when I say something silly. I need a stress tester. I need someone to ruthlessly find the holes in my logic before I present a flawed idea to my boss or pitch it to a client.
Or before you paint the room navy blue.
Or before I spend $1,000 on paint and labor for a terrible room. You are purposefully engineering friction, but it is entirely safe friction.
Safe friction is the perfect term for it. The psychological safety of this interaction is crucial for accelerated learning.
How so?
Well, in a real-world corporate environment, pitching a half-baked idea can carry severe social and professional risks. People hold back, they self-censor.
Nobody wants to look stupid in the boardroom.
Exactly. But with this custom gem, you have a private, judgment-free space where you can float radical strategies, completely naive questions, or terrible ideas without any of the social anxiety of looking foolish in front of a human colleague.
It's a sandbox.
And the prompt's instruction to be candid and informative ensures the feedback is direct, stripped of corporate politeness, but deeply educational. It tells you exactly why your idea fails, based on the physics, economics, or psychology of that specific profession.
You know, I actually did something similar recently, just by accident. I was working on a presentation structure, and I asked a standard AI if my flow made sense.
And what did it say?
It told me it was brilliant. It said I was a natural storyteller.
Of course it did.
So I presented it, and the audience was completely lost. The flow was entirely disjointed. If I had built a gem that was a seasoned keynote speaker and storytelling coach, and told it to tear my outline apart, it would have saved me a very uncomfortable 30 minutes on stage.
Precisely. And the methodology expands on this across different fields. Let's say you are a B2B sales representative.
Okay.
You can build a gem whose persona is a ruthless procurement officer for a Fortune 500 company.
Well, that's intimidating.
But incredibly useful. You can role-play your entire sales pitch with this gem. You say, here's how I plan to pitch our new enterprise software. Tear it apart.
And it will.
Because you established that specific persona, the gem will view your pitch through the deeply skeptical, risk-averse lens of a procurement officer. It won't care about your flashy UI features.
It's going to look at the bottom line.
It will hammer you on SOC2 compliance, API integration costs, long-term ROI metrics, and vendor lock-in risks. Things a sales rep might easily overlook when they are blinded by their own product's features.
It forces you to step completely outside your own subjective perspective.
It does.
And what's really cool is that the lab guide doesn't stop with just you and your personal AI. It points out that these custom tools don't have to be isolated little silos living only on your laptop.
The sharing feature.
Yes, there's a built-in sharing mechanism. You can navigate to the Explore Gems section and literally just click a share icon next to your newly built expert. You can take this highly calibrated custom-built challenger and share it with your entire team or department.
If we think about the organizational implications of that single feature, it is staggering.
Because it's a multiplier.
You aren't just scaling a piece of software, you are fundamentally scaling expertise and critical thinking.
Give me an example of how a team would use that.
Imagine a junior designer, fresh out of school. They now have 247 access to a gem that has been meticulously modeled after their own creative director's specific characteristics, methodologies, and standards.
They can get feedback before they even show the boss.
Exactly. Or a small bootstrap startup sharing a gem that acts as a seasoned regulatory compliance officer, stress testing every product launch. It democratizes access to high-level, specialized pushback.
You're essentially building a bespoke virtual board of directors that any member of your team can consult at 2:00 a.m. on a Sunday.
It's an incredible resource.
It really shifts the entire narrative, doesn't it? We hear so much anxiety about AI replacing people, but this frames it as AI becoming your smartest, most available colleague who is always ready for a rigorous brainstorming session.
It's augmentation, not replacement.
Okay, so that is the first massive piece of the puzzle, building your expert challenger. But let's shift gears.
Let's move to the data problem.
Right. What happens when your problem isn't that you need advice, but rather that you are drowning in actual, tangible data. You have that mountain of articles, quarterly reports, audio files, white papers.
The digital guilt folder.
Exactly, the guilt folder. And you need to somehow make sense of it all without spending the next month reading. That brings us to section 2 of our deep dive, looking at the documentation for Notebook LM.
A phenomenal tool.
The guide titles this section Build with AI Research Summaries. And this tool is entirely designed to synthesize chaotic noise into grounded, usable knowledge.
This specific section of the methodology directly addresses the core existential anxiety of the learner persona you mentioned earlier.
The drowning feeling.
It is that paralyzing feeling of staring at a massive stack of disparate documents, knowing with absolute certainty that the vital insight you need is buried somewhere in there.
But you just can't find it.
You simply do not have the temporal or cognitive bandwidth to mine for it manually. Notebook LM is positioned not as a chatbot, but as a dedicated solution to that very specific bottleneck of information processing.
So the manual kicks off by introducing this concept of multimodal uploads and summarization. And I have to admit, when I read this part, I had to read it twice because the capability is wild.
It really breaks down the barriers between formats.
The guide provides a set of sample sources you're supposed to upload to test the system. Let me just list the diversity of this data.
Go ahead.
The first source is a podcast, literally a YouTube link to a Google Design audio podcast featuring Ivy Ross.
Audio.
Right. The second source is a dense, static PDF titled Creative Best Practices Guide. The third is a live website link to a highly technical article on expressive material design published by Google Research. And the fourth is a standard YouTube video essay.
4 completely different media types.
You are taking long-form audio, a static text document, a live web page, and a video, and you're throwing them all into the exact same digital notebook at the exact same time.
To appreciate how profound a technological leap this is, we have to look back at how we historically handled synthesis.
Okay, take us back.
Think about the manual labor required just 10 or 15 years ago. If you had an audio cassette or a video, You couldn't cross-reference it with the book.
No, they don't talk to each other.
You had to perform a process of normalization first.
Mm.
You had to sit there, listen to the audio, pause it, and transcribe it into text. You had to read the PDF and use a physical highlighter, then copy those notes onto index cards.
I remember the index cards.
Everything had to be manually reduced to a single format text on paper before your brain could even begin the higher order task of comparing the ideas.
The manual labor was the primary barrier to learning.
Notebook LM completely bypasses that entire agonizing normalization phase. It natively ingests the multimodal reality of how we actually consume information today. We listen, we watch, we read.
And it handles it all.
It processes it all simultaneously as a single, unified corpus of knowledge.
That is incredibly validating to hear because I remember spending hours in college just transcribing interviews before I could even write my paper. The transcription was the work.
It took all your energy.
Now the machine does it instantly. And then the guide gives you the prompt to run on this wildly diverse, messy collection of media. And it's brilliantly simple. You just type, summarize the key learnings from these sources in a one-page overview.
Now, this is where we must draw a very sharp line between Notebook LM and standard AI chatbots.
Okay, what's the difference?
The lab manual points out a critical distinction. It is the entire architectural reason Notebook LM was created. When you run that summarization prompt, the output you get includes inline citations,
Little number bubbles.
little numbered bubbles. It draws directly and exclusively from the sources you uploaded. And the documentation is very explicit about why this matters, it says. This reduces hallucinations, and it allows you to check the output for accuracy and use AI responsibly.
Let's really pause and hammer this concept home. Because for you, the listener, the person who is trying to be genuinely, reliably well-informed, hallucinations are the absolute enemy.
They destroy trust.
For anyone who might not know, a hallucination is when an AI model confidently, articulately, and persuasively makes up a fact that sounds completely plausible but is entirely false.
And it happens often with standard models.
And if you are using AI to prep for a major presentation to your board of directors, one single hallucination can instantly destroy your professional credibility.
It is the fatal flaw of standard generative models. Standard large language models are trained on the entire unfenced expanse of the open internet,
Everything.
which means they have ingested facts, fiction, opinions, satire, and errors in equal measure.
A giant soup of data.
When they don't know an answer, their probabilistic nature causes them to guess or to blend concepts in ways that aren't factually accurate but statistically sound like real language.
They're trying to sound smart, not be right.
Exactly. But Notebook LM utilizes a different architecture. It is what we call a grounded model.
Grounded. Okay.
When you create a new notebook and upload your specific PDFs and podcast links, you are essentially drawing an impenetrable fence around the AI's brain.
I love that visual. An impenetrable fence.
You are giving it a strict directive. You only know what is inside this fence. The rest of the internet no longer exists to you.
It has amnesia to the outside world.
Therefore, every single claim it makes in that summary, every statistic it quotes, must be mathematically tied back to a specific paragraph in your PDF, a specific timestamp in that podcast, or a specific section of that website.
It is the ultimate cure for the anxiety of inaccurate information.
It really is.
It means I don't have to read the AI summary and wonder, did it just make up that quote from Ivy Ross?
You can check it.
I can actually hover my mouse over the citation bubble in the summary, and a window pops up showing me the exact verbatim quote from the transcript of the podcast, or the exact chart in the PDF.
It allows you to fundamentally trust the synthesis because you can instantly, frictionlessly verify the source material.
It has the concept of trust, but verify built natively into the user interface.
And philosophically, this shifts the user's role dramatically.
How so?
You are no longer just a passive consumer blindly accepting whatever text and AI spits out. You are elevated to the role of an auditor of information.
An auditor.
The AI is doing the heavy, grueling lifting of finding the hidden connections across hundreds of pages, but you retain the critical, uniquely human function of verifying the evidence and deciding if it matters.
You checking the receipts.
It ensures that the knowledge you are building is anchored in verifiable reality, not algorithmically generated fiction.
Which leads us perfectly into the next phase of the methodology. Step 2 of the Notebook LM guide focuses on cross-referencing and deep querying.
This is where it gets powerful.
Because once you have this grounded, citation-backed notebook, you can start interrogating your data in ways that would be practically impossible for a human brain to do quickly. The guide suggests a specific, multi-layered question to ask your notebook as an example.
What's the question?
You ask,
Yeah.
do any of these sources talk about how to test different color choices in design?
I want the listener to really think about what is happening under the hood when you ask that specific question.
It's not just a simple search.
No, the AI is not just executing a basic CTRL-F keyword search for the word color in the word test. If it did, it would miss 80% of the relevant information.
Right. Because different authors use different words.
It is performing a complex semantic search across all those entirely different media formats.
Okay, I have to stop you there. We throw around terms like semantic search, but for someone who isn't an engineer, what does that actually mean? How is it different from a keyword search?
Think of it like a massive library. A keyword search is like asking the librarian for a book with the exact word apple in the title. They will bring you a book about the fruit, a book about the tech company, and maybe a children's book. It's literal but dumb.
It doesn't know what you actually want.
Semantic search operates in what we call a vector space. The AI maps the meaning of words, not just their spelling.
The meaning.
So when you ask about testing color choices, the AI librarian understands the underlying concept. It knows that words like A/B analysis, contrast ratios, user emotional feedback, and shade variations are conceptually related to your question, even if the exact words test or color are never explicitly used.
That is wild. So it's looking for the vibe of the question, essentially, the conceptual neighborhood.
Yes, the conceptual neighborhood.
So returning to our example, the AI might dive into the dense PDF guide and find a rigid, highly statistical methodology for A/B testing user interfaces.
Right.
Then it will synthesize that data alongside a much more intuitive philosophical discussion about how color impacts human emotion that Ivy Ross mentioned verbally at the 45-minute mark of the YouTube podcast.
And it might also pull in a visual example of color contrast theory from the video essay.
It pulls those completely disparate, conceptually related threads together and weaves them into a single, highly coherent answer to your question, complete with citations to all three media types.
Precisely. Finding hidden thematic connections across entirely different formats of media is arguably one of the most difficult cognitive tasks humans face.
It takes so much brain power.
It requires holding an immense amount of detailed information and our active working memory simultaneously. By outsourcing that specific computationally heavy pattern matching task to Notebook LM, you free up your brain's cognitive resources.
You don't burn out just looking for the data.
Instead of exhausting yourself just trying to find where the information is hidden, you can spend your energy focusing on the implications of those connections.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because everything we've talked about so far is still text-based.
Yes, prompts and text summaries.
But the lab manual moves into a third phase, introducing the right-hand studio panel in Notebook LM. And this is where the tool stops being just a research assistant and becomes a full-blown multimedia production studio for your brain.
The studio panel is incredible.
The documentation notes that you can generate audio overviews, which are basically AI-generated podcasts discussing your documents, video overviews, and mind maps based entirely on your uploaded sources.
The mind maps are a massive breakthrough.
And the source material actually includes an image of what one of these mind maps looks like. And it is a phenomenal example of how to visualize complex, messy research.
We have to talk about why visualizing data is so critical for the learner. Human beings are fundamentally spatial thinkers.
We think in maps.
Our brains evolved to navigate physical landscapes, to remember where the river is in relation to the mountain. We did not evolve to read linear, 50-page black and white PDFs.
No, our eyes just glaze over.
When we can physically see how abstract concepts map out spatially in relation to one another, our hippocampus engages differently. We grasp the structure, the architecture of an entire domain exponentially faster than if we were just reading a bulleted list.
I want to paint a very vivid picture of this specific mind map for you, the listener, because it perfectly illustrates how this AI organizes chaos into a spatial landscape.
Walk us through it.
Imagine a clean, infinite digital canvas on your screen. On the left side, there's a dark, neatly organized sidebar listing all the PDFs and videos you upload.
They're sources.
But the main event is right in the center of the canvas. Floating there is a central node, a hub, representing the core theme of whatever massive research pile this user uploaded. The central node simply says, space exploration.
The anchor.
Now, branching out from that central hub are several distinct, sprawling pathways, almost like a neural network or a constellation. If we trace the top branch upward, it leads to a major node labeled Mars colonization.
Okay, moving from broad to specific.
And that node isn't a dead end. It branches out further into a subnode called terraforming strategies.
Going deeper.
And branching off of that, the AI has pulled out two very specific granular data points from the uploaded texts: atmospheric modification and water sourcing.
Notice what the AI has done there without any human prompting.
What's that?
The visual hierarchy of the map perfectly mirrors the conceptual hierarchy of the subject matter. It moves seamlessly from the macro-level theme space exploration to a mid-level strategic goal Mars colonization, down to specific methodologies, terraforming, and finally lands on the highly technical, granular data points atmospheric modification.
It's doing the structuring for you.
It instantly visually explains the relationship between a massive broad topic and a highly specific engineering challenge.
It's incredible. And if we go back to that central space exploration hub and follow a totally different branch off to the right, we find a node for exoplanet discovery.
A different branch entirely.
Attached directly to that is a detailed cluster about habitable zone criteria. It has pulled out the specific scientific constraints required to find Earth-like planets from some dense astronomy paper.
The constraints are mapped.
If we track a branch to the bottom right, it leads to space debris management, which breaks down further into tracking systems and removal methods.
And all of this is auto-generated.
Yes. And here's the part that blew my mind. A branch to the bottom left leads to sustainable habitats. And that node literally cross-references back across the map to some of the Mars concepts.
The intersecting lines.
It lists water sourcing again, connecting it to a new node called closed-loop systems.
That specific cross-connection is exactly why this is a masterclass in information architecture.
Because it shows the overlap.
For someone trying to learn a new subject quickly, seeing a visual layout like this is incredibly empowering. Imagine your boss tells you that you need to get up to speed on the current, cutting-edge state of space exploration technologies by tomorrow morning.
That sounds like a nightmare scenario.
If you just sat down and read 10 academic articles linearly, it might take you 6 hours to conceptually realize that water sourcing is a critical, shared foundational component of both Mars colonization and long-term sustainable habitats in orbit.
Because they're in two different papers.
Right. And you might completely miss how space debris management factors into the broader logistical picture. But this visual spatial map instantly reveals the topography of the entire subject.
It shows you exactly where the dense clusters of information are, and it visually draws the lines, showing how they intersect. You can literally trace a line with your finger, from atmospheric modification all the way back to the overarching goal of space exploration.
You don't have to hold it all in your head.
You're mapping out an entirely new, highly complex field of study in seconds. You are looking at the forest and examining the bark on the trees at the exact same time.
And we must remember the foundational rule of this tool, because this entire visual map is generated directly from the grounded, fenced-in sources you uploaded. You know with absolute certainty that every single node, every single connecting line, is backed by specific citations in your documents.
It's not hallucinating the connections.
No. It provides a reliable skeletal structure for your understanding. And once you have that mental model, that map in your head, adding new information to your brain becomes significantly easier because you know exactly where to file it.
It is an absolute game changer for anyone doing heavy research. Okay, so let's recap the journey so far. Section 1 showed us how to build a custom expert persona to aggressively challenge our ideas and test our thinking.
The challenger.
Right. Section 2 showed us how to ingest, synthesize, rigorously cite, and visually map a massive pile of diverse, messy data without the fear of hallucinations.
The synthesizer.
But this raises a massive question. What if you don't even have the documents yet?
The blank slate problem.
Exactly. What if your fundamental problem is that you have a massive, incredibly complex question, and you don't even know what PDFs to look for or where to begin searching for the answers?
You need a researcher.
That brings us to our third and final source document, which details a methodology titled Generating Research Reports for Comprehensive Insights with Gemini Deep Research.
This represents the ultimate top-tier synthesis tool in the workflow. We are moving from analyzing data we already possess locally to essentially commanding the AI to act as an autonomous research assistant.
To go out and find it for us.
To go out into the vastness of the internet, find the relevant, highly credible data, analyze it against our criteria, and bring back a finished, synthesized product.
The documentation highlights that this specific capability and methodology was demonstrated by a researcher from Google DeepMind.
The DeepMind methodology.
And the core value proposition they outline here is staggering. We're talking about eliminating hours, and in some professional cases, literal days of manual browsing, clicking through search results, reading abstracts, bookmarking sites, and compiling notes just to get a comprehensive answer to a broad, complex question.
It automates the drudgery.
But as the DeepMind guide aggressively emphasizes, the actual magic of this tool doesn't happen during the AI's research phase.
No, it doesn't.
The magic happens before the research ever begins.
This is a crucial paradigm shift for users to understand. The methodology outlined by DeepMind is heavily, almost exclusively focused on what they call the strategic planning phase.
This setup.
It outlines a rigorous four-step collaborative process where you work with the AI to drastically narrow the focus of the inquiry before it ever accesses the web.
Because if you don't,
This is where most people fail when using AI for research. They ask a broad, lazy question and expect a deeply nuanced, highly tailored answer. They type in, "Tell me about the global real estate market."
and they get garbage.
And they are disappointed when they get back what is essentially a generic Wikipedia entry.
Right, because if you ask a generic question, you get a generic answer. So what does this all mean in practice? How do we actually execute this strategic planning?
We use the matrix.
The DeepMind Guide provides a very specific matrix, a four-step framework to strictly define the parameters of the research before you ever hit go. Let's break down this matrix. Step 1 is defining the scope. The guide says you must explicitly draw the boundaries of the research.
Defining scope is about intentional exclusion just as much as it is about inclusion.
Explain that.
Well, if you are researching the future of electric vehicles, are you looking at global manufacturing and supply chain trends? Are you looking specifically at consumer adoption rates in Northern Europe? Or are you focused entirely on the chemical engineering of battery recycling technologies?
Those are three completely different reports.
Exactly. If you do not explicitly define the scope, the AI will attempt to boil the ocean. It will try to cover everything, and you will end up with a shallow 50-page report that mentions 1,000 things but explains absolutely nothing of value.
So scope is your boundary.
Defining the boundaries is your very first layer of defense against information overload.
Okay, let's say I've narrowed my scope. Step 2 in the matrix is sources. The methodology states you need to specify the exact types of data or sources you want the AI to prioritize in its search.
This is perhaps the most critical step because it dictates the entire tone, credibility, and authority of the final report.
It tells the AI who to listen to.
You have to ask yourself, what kind of truth am I looking for? Do you want the AI to prioritize double-blind, peer-reviewed academic journals? Do you need it to pull hard data from SEC financial earnings reports?
Or maybe consumer sentiment.
Or are you trying to understand the cultural zeitgeist, meaning you want it to prioritize consumer reviews, Reddit threads, and sentiment analysis from social media? The source fundamentally dictates the reality of the research.
Because academic truth and social media truth are very different things.
Completely different. By explicitly telling the AI what kind of data to value and what to ignore, you ensure the final output aligns exactly with your professional needs.
That makes total sense. Step 3 in the framework is time frame. You must set a specific, rigid time period that the research should cover.
We often forget that information has a shelf life. It degrades in utility over time.
Especially in tech.
If you are researching the current landscape of artificial intelligence regulations, an article written in 2022 is practically ancient history. It is actively detrimental to your understanding.
It will lead you in the wrong direction.
But if you are researching historical macroeconomic trends regarding inflation, you might need a time frame spanning 50 years. By locking in a rigid time frame, you prevent the AI from pulling outdated, irrelevant, or superseded data points that will completely skew your understanding of the current reality.
And finally, step 4 in the matrix is focus. You need to identify the core themes or specific variables that the report must emphasize above all else.
Focus provides the analytical lens through which the AI will process all the data it finds within your defined scope, sources, and time frame.
The lens. Okay.
Let's return to the electric vehicle example. If you define your focus as supply chain vulnerabilities, the AI will prioritize and highlight information about lithium mining constraints, geopolitical trade tariffs, and shipping bottlenecks.
Right.
But if you shift that focus to consumer infrastructure, it will look at the exact same pool of data, but highlight information about charging station network density, grid capacity, and range anxiety.
Same data pool, entirely different highlights.
Defining these four parameters, scope, sources, time frame, and focus, is the ultimate antidote to the modern problem of information overload. You are building a highly specific, customized filter before you ever open the faucet.
I want to make sure this is crystal clear for everyone listening because it can sound a bit abstract.
Hmm.
Let's actually role-play this. Let's build a deep research matrix right now.
Let's do it.
I'll be the user, and you be the AI helping me plan. Let's say I've become obsessed with the world of custom mechanical keyboards, and I want to research them. A bad prompt would just be, research mechanical keyboards. How do we fix that using the matrix? What's my scope?
Okay, let's collaborate. If you just say mechanical keyboards, I'm going to bring you data on cheap $20 office keyboards. What exactly are you interested in?
Good point. My scope is specifically high-end, custom-built mechanical keyboards, completely excluding pre-built, mass-market gaming keyboards. I only want the enthusiast niche.
Excellent. The boundaries are drawn. Now, step 2. Sources. Where should I look? If I go to generic tech news sites, you'll just get superficial reviews.
Right. I want you to prioritize enthusiast forums, specifically Reddit's mechanical keyboard communities, specialized hobbyist blogs, and boutique manufacturer websites. Ignore mainstream tech media entirely.
Perfect. We've established the authority. Step 3, time frame. The hobby moves fast. Do you want the whole history?
No, the technology changes too quickly. Let's restrict the time frame to only data and discussions from the last 24 months.
Understood. Finally, step 4, focus. When I am reading these forum posts from the last 2 years, what specific variables am I looking for?
I want the report to focus heavily on the acoustics of different switch types, like how people describe the sound and the emerging ergonomic layout trends. I don't care about RGB lighting or keycap colors.
And there we have it. You took an impossibly broad topic and engineered a hyper-specific set of parameters.
It completely changed the assignment.
When you feed that matrix into Gemini Deep Research, it isn't just mindlessly Googling for you. It is executing a highly targeted, multi-layered investigation.
It's acting like a real researcher.
It will autonomously read dozens of forum threads, synthesize the acoustic data, identify the ergonomic trends, and generate a cohesive, deeply specialized report that directly answers your exact curiosity without wasting your time on anything else.
It is brilliant, and the DeepMind documentation provides some excellent, highly professional, real-world applications of this framework beyond just our keyboard hobby.
It applies to enterprise-level problems.
The primary example they detail is researching market trends for a new paint line. Imagine you work for a massive home goods conglomerate, and you're tasked with proposing a brand new line of interior paints for next year.
A huge project.
If you just said research the paint market, you would fail. But using this matrix, your scope becomes interior residential paint trends, specifically in the North American market.
Narrowed down.
Your sources become high-end design industry publications, architectural digests, and major consumer home improvement blogs.
A specific authority.
Your time frame is data from the last 18 months, pulling any available projections for the next 2 years.
Relevant timeline.
And your focus is the emergence of eco-friendly, non-toxic materials, shifts in consumer color psychology in a post-pandemic world, and the viability of direct-to-consumer online sales models.
In every one of these scenarios, whether it is paint trends, researching mechanical keyboards, or conducting a ruthless competitive analysis of your industry rivals, the fundamental nature of your work shifts.
How does it shift?
You are transitioning away from doing the grueling, manual, low-level labor of data collection and sorting. You are elevating yourself to operate strictly as the strategic director of the research process.
You're managing the project.
You do the high-level thinking to set the parameters, the AI executes the labor-intensive gathering and synthesizing, and you return to review the final outcome.
Which perfectly sets up the final, brilliant step outlined in the Deep Research Guide: shareable outputs. Because once the AI generates this massive, beautifully synthesized report based on your matrix, you are still left with a very dense text document.
It's still a wall of text.
Right, and the guide states, for quick communication of insights, the system can transform the dense report into an easy-to-understand visual aid. It explicitly mentions generating an infographic.
Visual synthesis again.
So you don't just get a 20-page text document that no one in your team will ever read. You get a synthesized, highly digital deliverable that you can immediately drop into a slide deck, present in a meeting, or email to your stakeholders.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of what it means to be a professional in today's economy, this is where the true, undeniable value of the learner shines.
Tell me more about that.
The ultimate goal of learning, especially in a collaborative or corporate context, isn't just hoarding facts in your own head to feel smart.
It's not trivia.
It is about influence. It is about driving action. It is about taking massively complex, dense research and translating it into actionable, deeply accessible formats that drive informed decision-making within your team or your organization.
Making it digestible for others.
By taking the time to generate a clear infographic or a structured visual aid from that deep research, you are significantly reducing the cognitive load for everyone else around you.
You're doing them a favor.
You elevate your status. You become the indispensable central node in your professional network, the person who doesn't just know a lot of things, but possesses the rare skill of making complex things knowable and actionable for others.
It is the absolute perfect capstone to this entire workflow we've been building today. So let's take a breath and look at the incredible journey we just took through these source materials.
It's been a lot to cover.
We started with the Expert Advice Lab, where we learned that we shouldn't just talk to AI, we need to engineer our own custom AI persona, painstakingly defining its characteristics first.
So that it doesn't just blindly validate our ideas.
Exactly, but actively, rigorously challenges our thinking with safe, productive friction. We built an expert, tireless colleague. Then we moved to Notebook LM, which is the ultimate cure for the anxiety of hallucinations.
The grounded model.
We learned how to ingest a chaotic, multimodal mix of podcasts, PDFs, and videos, summarize them with exact, verifiable pinpoint citations
And generate those visual spatial mind maps.
that instantly reveal the topography of complex topics. We learned how to permanently ground our knowledge in reality. And finally, we explored the methodology of Gemini Deep Research.
Using the rigorous four-step strategic matrix.
Scope, sources, time frame, and focus to command the AI to conduct deep, autonomous investigations and produce highly targeted, easily shareable visual insights.
It is a profound evolution in how we interact with information. We have moved from dealing with isolated novelty tools to mastering a comprehensive, deeply integrated system for intellectual leverage.
And for you, the listener, the person with the 30 open browser tabs and the folder of unread PDFs, this is the ultimate payoff.
It solves the guilt.
These workflows are a custom-fit shortcut to being genuinely, confidently well-informed. They eliminate the dread of the open tabs. They completely remove the anxiety of the unread research papers.
They do.
But most importantly, they give back the one resource you value more than anything else: time. The countless hours you used to spend just trying to organize, transcribe, and search through information can now be spent actually analyzing it, deeply understanding it, and applying it to your life. You are finally taking back control of your own learning process.
This raises an important question, though. A deeply philosophical one that I think we all have to grapple with as these tools become standard.
What's that?
If an AI system can now act as your personal, highly credentialed expert advisor, if it can flawlessly synthesize your messy, multimodal documents without hallucinating, and if it can execute comprehensive, deeply researched reports based on your strategic parameters, what exactly does that make you?
That is the million-dollar question.
What is your role in this new cognitive ecosystem? I believe it shifts the human role entirely, moving us from the exhausting job of information gatherer to the highly leveraged role of information architect.
An information architect.
The sheer execution of research, the finding, the sorting, the summarizing, is no longer the bottleneck of human progress. The conception of the research is.
Right.
Therefore, the most valuable, irreplaceable skill you can possibly cultivate moving forward isn't your ability to find the right answers. The machine can do that. Your value is your ability to design the right questions. Your true worth lies in your strategic vision, your creative intuition, your empathy, and your ability to define the precise boundaries of the inquiry. The machine is incredibly fast at exploring the map, but you, and only you, are the one who has to draw the borders.
That is an incredibly powerful, empowering thought to leave on. Designing the right questions is truly the new literacy of our age. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into these fascinating source materials. We hope you leave this conversation feeling not overwhelmed by the future, but entirely energized and equipped to start building your own custom workflows.
Get out there and build them.
So close those extra tabs, open up a new chat, take the time to deeply define your expert, upload that intimidating stack of PDFs you've been avoiding all month, and start visually mapping out your next big idea. The tools are incredibly powerful, and they're just waiting for you to take command. Until next time, keep questioning the defaults, keep exploring the boundaries, and keep learning.